I hope something good happened out of it. And again,
I'm getting a
looking
kick
for the
out of
best.
this.
Well, I personally look at it at that this is my world and this is your world. And for me, I wish that we didn't even have any borders, that we just could go wherever we wanted to. So immigration to me, that's the way I look at it. I wish we didn't have any borders, period. This is my world, this is your world. Enjoy it. Having said that, for immigration issues, I'll speak more in terms of personally. Of course, I'm not a fan of having a wall. I think we can spend our money and our time far better than on a wall separating two countries, personally. So that's my perspective, and I think if there's a lot of ways that we can do, and other things we can do to keep ourselves as a family, and a family, I mean a world family, not a country family, and that's my perspective personally.
I think H-1Bs, restricting it is going to affect, real estate purchasers, obviously. But from a lending perspective, what it'll do is just require the person with the H-1B to put down more down payment, right? Lenders are going to require more down payment. They're going to probably put it under more of a portfolio type of program versus, selling to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. So, it'll restrict from that point. But as far as, the talent pool, I think it just affects our industry in general if they restrict the flow of talent coming in from H-1Bs. So I think that I'm more concerned about how it affects the economy more than anything.
So it's pretty clear from the questions and from what we've talked about so far that there's a heavy connection between real estate and politics. Okay? We want to try to stay focused on the real estate side here because I'm sure everybody has their opinions on politics. So I won't share mine right now. Mark, you have something to ask?
Let me.
No. I'm just curious. Can maybe each of you share with us
Let's see
maybe some of the myths people have about your culture, and that I'd like to hear it because obviously myths aren't always the truth, but I'd like to hear what you guys think.
Okay, great. So, have you run into any types of, I actually was at an installation for Aria a couple of years ago, and so I heard the stories then about the discrimination and stuff like that that some of your founders actually had experienced. So the question I think relates to, are you still, or are your members still running into that now? Or how is that affecting the business that you guys are running into?
No, that's a really good point. Once again, I want to point out this is going to be the 50th year of the passing of the Fair Housing Act. I don't know how, it's a very big deal to us, and our organization's gonna obviously focus on it a lot. But what you were referring to was Alan Okamoto. His father was barred, membership into the San Francisco County Association of Realtors, and then he subsequently, 20 years later, became the president of San Francisco. So that was a really cool story. But as far as myths are concerned, I think Aria, we did one where we discussed myths about the model minority. That's what it is. So like painting a picture of what the quiet, subservient Asian, respectful, not non-confrontational. That was a very touchy subject because people, you got women standing up going, I don't think so. Everyone's kind of going nuts about it. But it's I think, and this year I've seen a lot of sessions about working with Asians as well from numerous realtor groups. So I think that's a cool way to kind of break down the barriers and have people understand some of the cultural differences and so forth. Because I'm not going to go through all the cultures, but
how about there's one? Can I just? One particular myth that I hear is that a lot of cultures, you can see, don't believe they don't start negotiating until after they're in contract.
Well, yeah, that's,
They can't
that's a
say that out
negotiation
loud.
Tactic, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's.
Is that a myth, or do you think that's true?
Oh, I'm sure. I've seen it, so I can tell you.
It is true.
It sometimes happens, yeah, but I think that can all be controlled by your realtor, right?
It's an
Right.
exception to the rule, not the rule.
Right, right.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
From the Latino community, to dispel maybe a myth is that obviously we're one of the bigger minority groups here, and typically we're either portrayed or seen as being more of the service-oriented job. But there's a lot of people that are Latinos now that are coming up to having money, having access to capital, having potential to invest and be investors. So that's one of the ones that I've seen, that we're not first-time home buyers only, and there are people now that have the means to make the bigger transactions, going to commercial, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my suggestion.
All right, some of the myths for the Vietnamese people are, I think, when you know someone Vietnamese and you work with someone, you know them. Hey, I love your pho, I love your egg rolls. But I say, get to know. Yeah, they are good. Well, but at the VDAR, we do an event, national event we call Taste of Vietnam. We do it annually. We make a big deal out of it. So we promote three things: food, fashion, and culture. And I say, grab a Vietnamese friend, and they'll show you more than pho and egg roll. You'll learn a lot more dishes that we have, some of the dresses, some of the culture, and how we came about. I traveled back to Vietnam, I would say back in March, and I say, when I was in Vietnam after 30 years being back to my own country, I realized I look around, every corner I've seen is entrepreneurs. The Vietnamese that you see here in America are mostly entrepreneurs. They are either doing something, they own a nail salon, a pho shop, or they're a doctor and they own like 5 meal tea restaurants. So they are entrepreneur by blood, and I say, that's actually truth about culture. They own a lot of businesses.
So I can only speak from just my perspective, and I'm a mutt. So I identify as Latina and white. So I have a little view on everything there, but I also represent women from all different walks of life. So I can't speak for what the myths are with those cultures, but I can just speak from my own experience. From the Latino community, there is a myth that a lot of Latinos don't like to rock the boat. They don't want to step into these higher positions of power because they like to just remain silent and just kind of go along the way, right? But as you can see here today, there's 2 Latinos that are sitting up on this panel that are representing the community, and that just I love. And you are seeing more and more Latinos step into leadership positions and speaking for the community. So that right there, I'm very, very happy about. As far as for the other side or the other community, I don't know, this may be, politically incorrect, correct, I don't know, but not all Americans or Caucasians are narrow-minded or think a certain way, okay? I need to put that out there because I have lots of friends from all different walks of life, and you can get narrow-minded people from all of the cultures, not just one. So, right? So, I think it's important for people to just always keep an open mind and just,
I wonder who she considers narrow-minded.
educate yourself, meet lots of people, and you'll see that we can all work together. And even though there are these myths or these misconceptions, when you go out into the world, whether it's traveling or just working with different people from different walks of life, you're going to see that the world is a beautiful place and we're all fully capable of all working together.
Right, so myths work both ways.
Yeah.
Sounds like, yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that. I have a question actually for the 2 of you. to begin with, because I work with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. But one of the things I found common about most of my clients is a desire for the better schools, and better to them means scoring 9 or 10 on the Great Schools website, because there's really no other way to grade schools right now. Some of them, though, actually dive deeper into the data, and they look at the populations of those schools. And one of the things that I've run across, and it may be a myth, and maybe you can help me out with it, and that is schools with a high Hispanic background tend not to score as well. And so I'm just wondering if it were, how would I address that myth with some of my other clients who are not Hispanic but are looking at that as information?
So that part of that ties into the makeup of our state. So I don't know if a lot of you are aware, but we're over, I think, 52% Latino in the state of California. And a lot of those children that come here from, the different Latin countries are ESL. And ESL means English as a second language. So they're already coming into California and our schools not fully understanding the curriculum, not fully understanding English as a language. So if the students in the schools aren't fully understanding, their parents are not going to speak much English either. So I think that plays a big role into fully understanding the importance that there is behind going to a good school. So I think, like I said earlier, the more that we educate ourselves and we provide programs for those students and their families to better understand how important it is to be in a better school, then that problem will kind of slowly diminish. But it's a big problem, so it'll take time.
Another tough one. All right. So, and I think it also addresses the fact that we are a very multicultural area of the country. And there's not only just Latinos coming into this area, but also Vietnamese and Chinese. And where they do live is usually the more affordable parts of the area. And so you get a concentration of just ethnic people in these schools that are learning a new culture, learning a new language, and the school systems in general, public schools are not trained to have such a ESL influx of people or students and bring them up to speed quickly and get them integrated into the system. So therefore, the scores might be a little bit lower than other schools where you have the more affluent second generation ethnic people or Anglo. So that's the demographic. But I want to make sure that it's clear that it doesn't reflect that these lower scores are due to because the ethnic students are of lesser capability. Okay? It's more of a reflection of the students coming in to a new country, a new area, and coming up to speed. So I would say to the prospective buyers, it's more of, is your student ready? Then it's about the school and the teachers and getting, helping your child come up to speed in these communities more than anything else. As a second generation, first generation college student, and now my kids are in a school in Santa Clara that has the demographic of being underperforming. But with us being college students, my kids are doing very well. So it's not an issue for me and my kids going to that school. It's more of a community effort to help and support the students to be successful in general. From my perspective, that's what I would suggest to the prospective buyers.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Joseph, you have a thought or a question?
I actually want to share a personal story. I'm an immigrant myself. I was born in Iran, but I'm Assyrian. And when I left Iran, I went to Chile. So I went to a country that speaks Spanish, and I did not speak a word in Spanish, right? So I went to a school that was a British school, but they predominantly taught everything in Spanish. They just had a a better English program, and a lot of immigrants. I mean, a lot of people that lived in the States and went back to school, and they wanted to be in a British school. So, but everything else was taught in Spanish, and so they had given me about a year to learn the language so that I could go be as a regular student. And for 1 year, I just went to the class and I just sat there, not understanding what they're talking about, right? So the second year, at the end of the year, they had awards that they were giving to these people, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm wondering if they're going to call my name, and because my grades weren't the best grades, but they called me up and they said they had me as the hardest working person in the class. Because, even though I went to the best school, even though my grades weren't the best, because going there you can't learn everything in a year and a half. But so that goes back to the what you brought, that even the scores doesn't mean anything, because these are students that are coming not knowing anything about the culture, and so you can't just get up there and in a year be the best student. It takes a few years to do that.
Great, thank you, Joseph. Neil, you had a comment or thought?
Yeah, I'm going to have a question. I'm going to gear it towards Evan, but the rest of you can chime in. So we heard Monday, and it was referenced about Mayor Liccardo wants to put 25,000 units on track in the next 5 years. We also know his fondness of cranes. He always talks about cranes. So we know the long-term reality because he is running unopposed that I know of right now. So we're probably looking at a 5-year span. We know the reality now is going to be downtown, high-rise, density. How are you reshaping your business to take advantage of the potential opportunities and challenges